Are you tired of the tedious job of adjusting settings block by block on every page for your website? Imagine a world where you can just wave your magic wand and instantly harmonize your site's design with a single click. Well, after today you will be able to do that, as I reveal the secret of effortless web design. But first, let me tell you what happened to me. So there I was working on a website for a client. I was enjoying the process of creating tiny little animations mid-project, and suddenly I got a message from a client. Could you change the design for the secondary button? I was like, yeah, sure, I can do this. So I went to WordPress and go to the several pages where I set up the secondary button and changed it according to his new wishes. Afterwards, I continued creating the last pages on the website, only to have him send a second message. I want to revert the changes you have made. Could you do that? And I was thinking, well, this is very tedious. Now you have to go to every page and open up the secondary button and then change the settings again. Is there a way we could do this faster? Well, yes, there is. There's called classes, and it's available in GreenShift, so let's get to it. First, let's understand what classes are. Classes are reusable settings. If you go to your WordPress dashboard and you go to GreenShift, for example, you have some settings available. And these are some settings that are available in the General tab. Now, what can be set in classes are the background options and typography, the border, shadow, spacing, and size. But as I stated earlier, when you do this, you need to change it every time for every button. And when the same button is used on multiple pages, it will be very tedious. So how do you set up a class? There are also some other builders that have classes available, but I will focus on GreenShift blocks. When you select your button, on the right hand side you have a drop down called block classes. When you click on it, you have a possibility to add a new one, a type, and then have a add button, and you also have some presets already available for you. Now, we're not going to use the presets already available, but we're going to create a new one specifically for this button. Now, when naming your classes, it's always a good practice to have some kind of naming convention. My favorite naming convention is from Finwood. It's called Client First, and you can find a link in the description down below on how to set it up. You start with a element or the section you are working on, and then having a modifier afterwards. Using the Client First naming convention, this should be button secondary. And then you have type, and when you open it up you have classic class, so those classes are already available from your theme or from any other plugin that has classes available. You can set it to local. Local will only load on this page. Then you have global, and that will load over the whole website. Usually when I create classes I want to reuse it on other pages as well, so I always select global. And then we can press add. Block classes are a class that is part of CSS. And CSS is a way to create those styles that we are creating just now. Now it will add a button class to this button. So let's change these settings. We want the text to be this green. So we click on the color picker. Want the weight to be bold. And we want the border to be 0. When we want to save our global class, we have to hit save here. So now it's saved to the database and you can reuse them. What I then always do is reset the rest, so we can see everything reset, and also the spacing and also the size. As we can see, we need to change some other settings as well, because we have a green background with a green text on it. So we go into our background tab and we change the color to transparent, and as we hover over it something else will change, so let's change that to be white as well. I see some kind of border in there, so let's change that as well to have 0 border. You can't enter 0, so what I usually do is enter 1, select a border, and then make it transparent, and then hit save, and then hit update. So we can see our secondary button there. Now, as you can see, there are some differences between what we see in the front end or our website compared to the Gutenberg website. Let's ignore that a little bit. Now here we have our other secondary button. Add the button secondary class here as well. And then we remove all the settings in here that we don't need. So we hit update, and before we refresh the home page, we scroll down. We see that the secondary button looks like this, and when we refresh the page, it looks like this. So let's do that also for the last secondary button. Scroll down, add a class, remove all the settings and hit update again. Now we see that our last button is also changed. Now for the example, when our client comes in and wants to change something, for example, he wants to add the border again, we can now open our class, go into border and change the border to the color that he wants, add some nice radius to it and hit update. And if we go to the website and refresh the page, we see nothing happening because we didn't hit save here. So we need to hit save, then hit update, and then we refresh the front page. You will see that the changes have been done. Now some people like to create something that's called utility classes, and utility classes are the smallest possible classes that are available. For example, for aligning your text left, center or right, or even making your heading style. Now I would argue that that is not the best way to set it up for WordPress, because when you go to your dashboard in GreenShift, go to your style book, you can create the global settings of every element instead of doing it in classes. This makes these utility classes a little bit redundant because you can set everything in here and will be globally saved, so it will have a coherent design throughout the whole website. But that's something you need to figure out yourself on what kind of classes you would like to use and would like to have available for you. So I would recommend to experiment with classes and just searching some CSS naming conventions to help you out. But again, I like the naming convention from Finwood, the client first naming convention. So this is where classes comes in very handy to make your life easier and make changes faster. Now the secondary button is just the tip of the iceberg. You can go as far as creating whole hero sections with a different kind of background color, different kind of text colors, and different kind of buttons. Now if you would like to see me create this hero section and explain how I made this, leave a comment down below. Now I'd really love if you experiment with CSS and using classes, because it's one of the most fun things of creating a website if you ask me. The design, the nitty-gritty, all the details you can change is a very fun thing to do. And GreenShift offers a great way to explore classes. Now if you would like to see other resources, I would highly recommend Kevin Powell on YouTube or w3schools.com. I will leave a link down below as usual. And please feel free to let me know down in the comments if there are other resources you would like to recommend. Now that you have an idea on what classes are and how you could use them, there are sometimes some weird things happening. The changes you have done in the classes won't show up in your website. So watch this video next to understand what happens and how you can fix it. And if you're still watching, hit subscribe to get more of these kinds of videos and hit the like button if the video helped you out. And as always, keep designing.